Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back with me firstly I need to introduce myself. My name is Edfitri Muflihatusyawal. I'm a college student of Indonesia University of Education in major Science of Islamic Religion. So on this video I wanted to share to you about review of one book that actually related into tafsir. So here is the book. This book is Mabahith fi Ulumil Qur'an by Manna Al-Qatthan. To understand deeper about the Quran requires many kinds of knowledge, which are known as Ulumil Qur'an or Quranic science. Ulumil Qur'an is a scientific discipline that has a broad scope of discussion, which includes Ulumil Qur'an, Nasikh Mansukh, Asbabun Nuzul, Amthal Qur'an, etc. Understanding this branches of knowledge is very important, especially in an era where many Muslims have a weak understanding of Islam, even in very basic and axiomatic matters. Not understanding Ulumul Qur'an can lead to mistake and deviations in understanding the verses of the Quran. On the other hand, armed with the Ulumul Qur'an, a Muslim is not in excessive fear of being able to get close and follow the Quran. This book is the right starting point for those who want to move up the level from merely reading the Quran to learning and understanding its content. So how to make it happen? This book has also been tested for years as a standard guideline among academics because of the completeness of the content and the expertise of its author. Here are the personal data of the author. Syaikh Manna Al-Qatthan was born in 1925 in Shamsul, Manufia, Egypt. His scientific life began with Tahfiz al-Quran since childhood, then proceeded to Madrasah Ibtidaiyah and Ma'had Dinya al-Azhar. Then he studied undergraduate study at the Usuluddin faculty in Cairo and became chairman of the Student Association. He also studied with some senior scholars such as Sheikh Abdul Razak Afifi, Dr. Muhammad Al-Bahi, and Dr. Muhammad Yusuf Musa. Then he moved to Saudi Arabia to teach in various Ma'had since 1953. Since 1958, he has been a lecturer at the Sharia faculty and the Arabic language faculty in Riyadh. He also been a director at Ma'had Ali di Al-Qada, the College of Justice, and the Director of Postgraduate Studies, Al-Imam Muhammad bin Saud University. He received the mandate as a supervisor for up to 115 theses and dissertation titles in 3 leading universities. More than 22 titles of his scientific papers have been printed, of which the most famous is the book Mabahith fi Ulumil Qur'an. He died on 19 July 1999 at the age of 75 and was buried in Riyadh. About the identity of the book itself, it's originally titled Mabahith fi Ulumil Qur'an, and it was translated into Indonesian language by the publisher Ulumil Qur'an in 2016, and its pages are 584 pages. This book consists of 6 chapters, and it starts with the first chapter that in it explains the definition of the Al-Quran, the names and the characteristic of the Al-Quran, the difference between Al-Quran, Hadith Qudsi and Hadith Nabawi, and also a revelation. This discussion then becomes very important because they can support our understanding of the content of this book while we study about Ulumil Qur'an through this book. As we know that by knowing and understanding the definition of something we're going to learn, it will be easier for us to learn it, inshallah. As we know that the Al-Quran was revealed with a clear purpose, which is directing to the straight path. Therefore, researchers in the field of Ulumil Qur'an feel that knowledge of Asbabun Nuzul, or the causes of the reflection of the Quranic verse, is important in the process of tafsir, or interpreting the Quran, so that some scholars have even written their writings related to this Asbabun Nuzul. Those discussions will exist in the second chapter of this book. For the reference to knowing Asbabun Nuzul itself is taken only from authentic narration, because in determining it, we cannot use history carelessly. This chapter also explains the benefit of knowing Asbabun Nuzul, from which we can find out the wisdom of the enactment of law. After talking about Asbabun Nuzul, we also need to know about Nuzulul Qur'an, or the process of the revelation of the Al-Qur'an itself. At least, there are differences of opinion regarding the revelation of the Qur'an. Some say that the Al-Qur'an came down directly, some say that the Al-Qur'an came down gradually. Seems a contradiction, doesn't it? So, I suggest you to read this book to get complete information. On this day, we know that the Al-Qur'an as a book, really a book whose contents are sheets of paper. Did the Quran come down from Arash in this form? Certainly not. The Al-Quran came down directly to the Messenger of Allah through the angel Jibril. Then the Messenger of Allah collected them by memorizing them. So here we can see how strong the memory of the Prophet is. At the time of the Prophet, collecting the Al-Quran meant memorizing it. So the Prophet ordered Ali bin Abi Talib, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, Ubay bin Ka'ab, and Zayd bin Thabit to write the Al-Quran in a written form. Before the Prophet Muhammad died, the Al-Quran was not yet a Musaf, not a book. Then the collection into the Mus'haf was initiated by the Caliph Abu Bakr during his caliphate. The Mus'haf, which is popular today, is Rasm Uthmani. Why is that? At the time of the Caliph Uthman bin Affan, Islam was increasingly widespread, and it was found that there were dialect differences in reading Al-Quran from various countries. Caliph Uthman did not blame it. However, to unite the Muslim, finally the Caliph Uthman patented only one dialect, which was later referred to as the Rasm Usmani and Uthmani Mus'haf. It feels incomplete when we discuss about the Asbabun Nuzul and Nuzul Quran, but not discussing the order of the letters and verses. So then explain it clearly in this book, in the second chapter. After talking about the Asbabun Nuzul or Nuzul Quran, it is incomplete when we don't discuss reading and pronunciation. So it is discussed in the third chapter under the title Qira'at and Qurra. According to the most authentic opinion, Qira'at differs from a dialect of language. Qira'at is the mazhab of reciter imams, in which Qira'at is the consent with which Muslims read the Al-Quran. The trigger for Qira'at differences is dialect differences in pronunciation, in which all these differences occur in one language dialect, namely the Arabic dialect. Apart from that, this chapter also discusses the type of Qira'at, their laws, and their rules. It is also incomplete when we're discussing reading but not learning tajweed and the manners in reading the Al-Quran. And this discussion are also included in this chapter. After being satisfied to discuss related to the Al-Quran and the Ulumil Qur'an in general, the fourth chapter of this book discuss the principles that need to be mastered by mufassirs to interpret the Quran later. Since the Al-Quran came down in Arabic, the most important thing is the linguistic rules or nahwiyah rules of the Arabic language itself. After talking about the 4th chapter, then the 5th chapter of this book discusses about Al-Am and Al-Khas. This chapter also explains the kinds of Al-Am and Al-Khas. In this chapter, there's also a section that discusses about Nasikh and Mansukh. Nasikh itself means eliminating, as well as moving something to another place. Meanwhile, Mansukh is a law that is removed, in which the existence of the Nasikh Mansukh is none other than for the benefit of the servant of Allah. After talking about Nasikh and Mansukh, the next one is to discuss about Mutlaq and Muqayyad. In this section of book, there's also existed about interpreting pronunciation in the Al-Quran. Interpreting pronunciation in the Al-Quran is something based on the sound of Mantuq or explicit meaning. Sometimes it is based on mafhum or the meaning understood from the lafaz. And the kind of Mantuq itself include Nash, Zahir, and Mu'awwal. While there are various kinds of understanding, while there are various kinds of mafhum, there are muwafaqa and mafhum mukhalafa. This book is also talk about the miracles of the Al-Quran and also discussed in this chapter. We could say that the miracles of the Al-Quran are included in the miracles themselves. The miracle of the Al-Quran can be seen from the sarfah or diversion, balaghah meaning content, future news, as well as the content of various kinds of knowledge in it. This book also told us about actual or parable, qasam or oath, and also jadal or debate. There are interesting things from the Al-Quran. We will find qisas or stories in it. The stories in the Al-Quran discuss the stories of the prophets, the stories of previous events, the stories of non-prophets, as well as events that occurred during the time of the prophet. The existence of these qisas can be used by educators as a means of learning, of course, so that the goals of Islamic religion education can be achieved effectively and efficiently. Furthermore, the 6th chapter of this book discusses translation and ta'wil, where the translation of the Al-Quran was initiated by the spread of Islamic teaching all over the world, which have different language, so that the Al-Quran needs a translation so that people are able to understand it. However, the language of the Al-Quran itself has a specificity where its language is at the peak of fluency and balaghah in Arabic. It is stated in this book that whoever translates the Al-Quran, whoever the translator is, ultimately the translation is not the Al-Quran. Regarding the meaningful translation in the Al-Quran, it is still not free from mistakes. However, this is permissible according to the agreement of the Muslim if it is intended for the general public who do not have the understanding to know its meanings. As for the realm of interpretation, it is limited to only related to monotheism. It is limited to only related to Tawheed and pillars of worship. Regarding the tafsir translation of the Al-Quran, it is permissible. The tafsiriyah translation itself is different from the meaningful translation, or the language translation, in which the tafsiriyah translation contains the views of a scholar. The mufassir, of course, cannot be just anyone. Only people with certain criteria can become mufassir of the Al-Qur'an. If tafsir help us to understand the Al-Qur'an with a history that takes a lot of the supporting knowledge of the interpretation as a reference, then that will help us from an understanding of how a scholar interprets the Al-Qur'an. Towards the end, this book also explains the terms and manners of the mufassir, the history of the development interpretation, the history of the development of tafsir, as well as the types of tafsir. That's all I can share to you, in hopes that you have a great curiosity so you are willing to read this book. Thank you for watching and listening. See you on the next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.